This is AIX, your daily dose of AI news.
If you look back at this past year in AI, there's really one story that just completely stands out, and it's this. 2025 was the year China basically went all in on open source AI. We saw an absolute explosion of powerful, downloadable models. And we're going to break down exactly what happened, why it happened, and most importantly, what it all means for you. All right, let's just dive right into the timeline and really take a look at this. What you're seeing here, it isn't just a random series of product launches. No way. This was a strategic onslaught. From January all the way to November, it felt like every single major player in China's tech scene dropped a massive open source model. This was no accident, folks. It was a huge coordinated shift that completely redrew the AI map.
Okay, so to really get what happened in 2025, you've got to understand this fundamental split in philosophy. It's kind of simple, actually. On one side, you've got your open weights models. Think of these as AI you can literally download, tinker with, and run on your own machines. Then, on the other side, you have the closed models, the big ones you can only access through an API. And for a long time, these closed models, they were the gold standard. They set the bar for performance. But this year, the open source community wasn't just trying to meet that bar. They were trying to absolutely shatter it.
So how did this fire get started? Well, it all kicked off right at the beginning of the year. There was one key release that was basically the spark that lit the whole powder keg. And here it is. The first big one of the year wasn't just some minor update. No, this was the one. In January, DeepSeek dropped R1, and man, it immediately set the tone for everything that was to come. Now, DeepSeek R1 wasn't your run-of-the-mill chatbot. It was what's called a mixture of experts, or MO model. And what that really means is it was built for one thing: cost-efficient reasoning. So for the first time, you had a model that could genuinely think through complex problems without costing a fortune to run. This was huge. It made super advanced AI accessible to way more people. And that one idea? It became the reference point for the whole year. But here's the thing. DeepSeek wasn't a one-hit wonder. Not even close. They didn't just drop R1 and call it a day. They immediately followed it up with a whole series of releases, just one after another, proving just how insanely fast you can improve and iterate when you're working with an open foundation. Yeah, this became their signature move, the fast iteration playbook. By pumping out these constant upgrades to their V3 model, DeepSeek basically created this super strong, general-purpose baseline that anyone could host themselves, and that put incredible pressure on everyone else in the market to try and keep up. So, with DeepSeek setting the bar so high, the competition wasn't just going to sit on the sidelines. They had to respond, and they had to respond in a big, big way. And that response came just a few months later, in April. That's when the tech giant Alibaba decided to throw its hat in the ring, and they didn't come to play. They dropped a massive, super comprehensive lineup of models. The Qwen3 release, it sent this really clear signal to the entire market. The message was, open source AI is not just for tinkerers and hobbyists anymore. This is serious, with models that could scale all the way from a tiny device, like on the edge, to a massive data center. This was open source that was officially ready for prime time, for serious enterprise-level business. Okay, so by the time we hit the middle of the year, this open weights movement wasn't just a trend anymore. It was a tidal wave, an unstoppable force. It got so big that even the largest, most established tech giants, they just couldn't ignore it any longer. And then came June 30th. Mark that date, because on the exact same day, two of China's absolute biggest tech players, Baidu and Huawei, both made their move. They jumped headfirst into the open source arena. Talk about a tipping point. This was it. And what's so fascinating here is that they had two completely different strategies, but they both ended up in the same place. You had Baidu, who basically jumped in because they saw the writing on the wall. The market was demanding open source models. But Huawei? Well, they had a totally different endgame. They went open to drive adoption of their own hardware, specifically their Ascent chips. Really clever. So this all begs a pretty big question, right? Why? Why did all these giants of Chinese tech jump into open source all at the same time? What caused this massive, coordinated shift away from those closed API-only models to just dropping open weights for the whole world to see? Well, it really was a perfect storm of different factors all hitting at once. First off, you just had the raw competitive pressure from the early movers like DeepSeek and Qwen. You couldn't ignore them.
Then you had these bigger strategic plays, like Huawei wanting to build a whole ecosystem around its chips. And maybe most importantly, you had this overwhelming demand from the developer community. I mean, they were screaming for models they could actually download and build with.
Okay, so as we moved into the second half of the year, something really interesting happened. The game started to change. The race wasn't just about who had the biggest, most powerful general model anymore. No, it shifted. It became about who had the smartest model for very specific, very complex jobs. And you could see this new focus on specialization pop up in all the key releases. You had Zhipu's GLM, which was all about agentic workflows, basically getting the AI to complete tasks on its own. Then there was Minimax, which was laser-focused on coding. And Kimi's K2 Thinking model was built from the ground up for really complex, multi-step reasoning and planning. It was a clear move towards creating the perfect tool for a specific job. All right, so we've seen this incredible arsenal of AI tools get released all year. So the big question for you, if you're a developer or a builder, is which one do you actually use? So let's put together a quick, practical playbook right now. First up, if you just need a great all-rounder, for building things like product copilots or internal assistants, these are your top 3 picks. You've got Alibaba's Qwen3, which is perfect for enterprise-ready, scalable stuff. Then there's DeepSeek V3, which is just a fantastic baseline if you want to host it yourself. And Zhipu's GLM 4.6 is a really strong alternative, especially if you need your AI to be good at using other tools.
Okay, but what if your project needs a model that does more than just fetch information? What if you need it to actually think its way through complex, multi-step problems? Well, that's where you turn to the specialists. DeepSeek R1 is still your go-to for a cost-efficient choice, but if you need the absolute state-of-the-art for complex planning, you're going to want to look at Kimi K2 Thinking.
And finally, for all you developers out there building agents or coding assistants, one model just became the absolute fan favorite this year, Minimax M2. Yeah, it's great at using tools and function calling, but its real superpower? It's just so efficient and easy to get up and running. That's why it basically spread like wildfire across all the popular developer communities.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's crystal clear. 2025 was a pivotal year, a truly landscape-altering year. This absolute explosion of powerful, open, and more specialized models coming out of China has fundamentally changed the global AI race. It has democratized access to frontier AI in a way we've never seen before, which leaves us all with one massive question to think about. What happens next?